with Brian Westbrook. We're going viral. Shaq and Kobe have been trading playful barbs this week. It started when Kobe said he'd have 12 rings if Shaq wasn't so lazy. Shaq took to Instagram yesterday, posting this photo, dunking on the entire Nets team, saying, "Damn, I was so lazy." What do you guys think?
You see him grabbing that jersey.
He might have 9 rings, not 12.
Listen, I don't even want to talk about Kobe's nonsense for a moment. I just want to remind the young people out there how dominant peak Shaq was.
Yeah.
3 straight years in the finals.
Right.
Put his finals averages together. It's about 36 and 13 a night.
15, I think.
Okay, 36 and 15 a night with about 3 blocks and 4 assists. He was, nobody would ever call Shaq the greatest player ever. However, if you are asked this question, I'll ask you both this very quickly. You can have one player in all of NBA history for one game at the absolute peak of their powers. Aliens come down Space Jam.
You know who I'm saying.
Who are you saying?
Michael Jordan.
I would go Michael Jordan as well, but I can understand where Shaq is coming from because Shaq
Apex Shaq's going to give you 40 and 20.
Let me say something on Kobe's behalf, though. The question Kobe was asked was if Shaq had your work ethic. He wasn't asked if Shaq worked hard. He didn't say Shaq didn't work hard. He just said he didn't work like Kobe, and he didn't. Kobe and Jordan and LeBron, they're on another level work ethic-wise. So if I agree with Kobe, if Shaq had Kobe's work ethic, he would be the GOAT.
Well, Kobe's also not Shaq. He's not the size of Shaq.
And maybe if Kobe had other guys' egos or disposition or playing styles, maybe they could have played together longer.
Right? I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
It's hard for big guys to work out like that, man. He's a big man. He got that bad toe.
Plus, you rapping all the time and cutting out.
Moving on to the Saints. All right, Brian Westbrook, last time we Googled, Drew Brees is 40 years old, most likely nearing the end of his career. There'd be no better swan song than winning his 2nd Lombardi trophy. And according to our friends at Fox Bet, he should have a shot, with New Orleans currently listed as the favorite to win the NFC ahead of the Rams and Eagles. This is a stacked conference, Brian. Who do you think wins the NFC?
You know, I like this Saints pick. And I like it for a couple of different reasons. I love their big 3. Obviously, Brees, Hall of Famer, Mike Thomas, and all the money in the world, and Alvin Kamara. I love that big 3. They can get it done. I love the acquisition of Jared Cook in the offseason. To me, that offense is unstoppable. Their defense actually faded a little bit towards the end of the season. The problem that I have with the Saints, and this is the one little small caveat that I have, is that they're in a very tough division. That division, they're going to get beat up playing 2 games against the Panthers and the Falcons and the Bucs, who are not very good, but they're going to get beat up just a bit. That's my concern about the Saints. To me, I think they will end up winning, but I have a close second in the Philadelphia Eagles. I think their division actually is probably the easier one in the NFC. You're talking about Dallas without Zeke. You have the Giants have no clue what they're going to end up doing.
Maybe 2 rookie quarterbacks starting by mid-season in that division.
That's right. So they had the best road. You talk about what the Patriots were able to do. They were able to do that a lot because of they had an easy road throughout the season, and they're not getting beat up and not having guys injured. So that's important. But I think the Saints have just as good a shot as anybody. I love what they're able to do offensively, score the football. That's going to be huge.
What you said about the division, obviously they're in a tough division. I would say that's the case for every division in the NFC except the one you said, the Philadelphia Eagles. Them and Dallas, that's it. And so they do have an advantage over not just the Saints, but every other division winner, because I think all those divisions are going to be very tough, and you're going to get beat up. But that said, I do still like the Saints to win the NFC. I think obviously they got incredible motivation, and everybody's motivated. We know that. But they have beat this drum so hard about what happened in the NFC Championship game that they're going to have to come out and back it up. And I think they will. I think they're going to be motivated in that way. I think the loss of Ingram, they're going to be out to prove that they can do it without him. He was great for him, but they let him go for a reason. So I think they're going to be out to prove they can do it without him. My question is, Drew Brees, was what we saw in the second half of last season when he fell off, was that just, you know, some
aberration.
Right, an aberration, or was that who he is now because he will be 41 years old in January?
One of the things, and I'm looking back, I look back at Drew Brees' season. Obviously, last year they started without Mark Ingram. Big time loss for them because now they're not running the ball as much. The first 3 games, Drew Brees averaged 42 pass attempts per game. That's way too much for an older quarterback. You have to get a running game established. Let Alvin Kamara run the ball a little bit more. Let the running game dictate how you go offensively, and then allow Drew Brees to be the quarterback that he's always been. Consistent. He's going to be a great leader. He's going to be accurate. He's going to get that team up and down the football field. That doesn't change this season.
The Eagles aren't my pick, but I do think the Eagles are going to have the second best record in the conference. And one thing to add to your guys' point about their division, the ease of it, if you will, is also the NFC East had a good draw this year in that this year their cross-conference matchup is the AFC East, which is almost assuredly the worst division in football. You got the Patriots, and then 3 teams have been trying to catch the Patriots for 20 years. So you're talking about, if you're the Eagles, you got 4 games against the Giants and against Washington, and then another 3 against Jets, Dolphins, and Bills. And so you'd much rather draw this year in the AFC the East than the AFC North, which I think we think is potentially a 3 playoff team division. So that's just good luck. It's 1 in 4 years, that's what they got. But my pick is not the Saints, and it's mostly because of what you alluded to, which is, who is Drew Brees going to be this year? John Elway and Joe Montana, 2 of the 5 greatest quarterbacks ever, retired at age 38. Dan Marino's last good year was age 38. Peyton's last good year was age 30 or 39. Brett Favre's that's the year when they hit the wall. Last good year or the year before. Brett Favre hit the wall at 41. Brees, we did see 2 different seasons for him. The first dozen games and then the end of the year. Even the playoff games. 2 short fields against the Rams that resulted in just 3 points. They had the ball in overtime, and that drive ended on a Drew Brees interception. I don't think the Saints have a good enough defense to be a dominant team without a dominant Drew Brees. So I'm going to go with the guy over my left shoulder, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I do believe Rodgers is the most talented quarterback in NFL history. I think Rodgers used the Shaq example. Who's best at their best is best of everybody. In the whole history of the league, I'd take Rodgers. Man, that can't be true, and him miss the playoffs 3 straight years while he's still, it might be the end of it, but still in the prime of his career. You talked about chip on his shoulder. Roger got chip on his shoulder now. The coach is gone. They spent money in free agency. Those young wide receivers that he was a little annoyed with last year are not quite so young. There's a lot of reasons to believe that Rodgers, if he can be healthy, can be back to league MVP Aaron Rodgers, but it's a similar problem they have that the Saints have, which is 2 other viable contenders within their own division in the Bears and the Vikings. Like, both those teams have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. But I think the Packers can pile up enough wins to have home field go through Lambeau for the first time in forever. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have the best year he's had in 5 years.
You're right about that division. The Vikings, Bears, 2 of the best defenses that we have in the league. The big question, I think, for the Saints is almost the same question for the Packers. Will their defense step up and play? We already know that the quarterbacks will get it done. I think your question about Drew Brees, early on, they put way too much on his plate early on last season, and it affected him towards the latter part of the season.
So you think that's what it was? He obviously looked great.
No, he looked totally different. Yeah, and I just think that they put way too much on him early on. And I think Sean Payton, who is a very good coach, they'll take some of that off early on and allow the running game to lead this football team early on, which will allow Drew Brees to be healthier and more viable towards the latter part of the season. But listen, the Packers are going to be good. The big question about them is, will Matt LaFleur, will Aaron Rodgers, will they mix? But also, will they get Aaron Jones going? Right. Will they get that running game going? Will they put that team in a position where in November, in December, when it's cold and rainy, they can run the football? That starts in September. That starts in August in the offseason, and that has to get done for that Green Bay team.
Are you really worried about the relationship at this point with Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, or has that been kind of the trendy thing to worry about with that team? Yes, it's a new head coach. It's a new offense. It's a much improved defense, at least for the most part. They actually spent some money in free agency, which they haven't in a while. That relationship is the biggest question for that team?
I don't think it's the biggest question. To to me, the biggest question is how will the run game affect that offense? But I think that it is a question, and everything looks good. Everything looks good in the offseason until it's game 5 and you guys have lost 2 games in a row. Now, who you put the blame on, the coach or the quarterback? Those are the 2 biggest shoulders to put the blame on. Now, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying, hey, it's not me, and I'm sure the coach is going to be saying the same thing. That's where you could run into some trouble in Green.
One quick note for the Saints, who 2 years ago started out 0-2, then went on a great run. Last year, lost the first game to Tampa, and then needed overtime to beat Cleveland when Cleveland wasn't good yet, and then went on their great run. This year, they are the only team in football to start the season with 4 consecutive games against playoff teams from last year. Houston, at the Rams, at Seattle, home for Dallas. Even if you think some of those teams are equipped to take a step backwards, they cannot get off to the slow start that they've gotten off to last couple of seasons.
That loss, the opening loss, that was Fitzpatrick's big game, right? Guess who was just named starter coming into this year?
Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic.
It'll be great for about a month.
No doubt.
Sorry, Josh Rosen. Brian, we'll see you later on in the show. Coming up, will the Patriots cruise to their 11th straight AFC East title? Probably. That's next on First Things First.
I think I traded you, Ryan Fitzpatrick, in fantasy right after we went on that run.